Hi, if you're out there, let me know you're there. Say hello and send me a thumbs up if the sound is good and the picture's good. Then I'll know we're okay. Hi, Elaine. Hi, Jane. Welcome, everybody. We'll wait just a minute to let people log in, and then we'll start sharing the new information about our brand new template set. Hi, Linda Martindale. Hi, Maureen. Hi, Pam. I love seeing where everybody's from. It's always so exciting. Our world is such a fun, big place, but we can all enjoy this together. Hi, Susan Digman. Hi, Ann Hamilton. Hi, Jane. Hi, Cindy. Okay, wow, we've got a good amount of people, so we won't waste any time. So I think everybody knows we're sharing something new and fun today, right? So I'm pretty excited about it. I've got some really fun samples. Maybe we'll put the sample up first to kind of orient our discussion. Okie doke, let me grab that. All right, this is my pretty sample. I am so excited with how it turned out. I think it's gorgeous. So maybe some people recognize this is a small Hoffman panel of the Big Dream. It's just a little one, and I put it underneath this amazing green teal color. And the template that we're sharing today is called the Tecoma set, T-E-C-O-M-A, and here's the packaging right here. So you can see there's lots of different design options, not just one. And this particular one that's right here in this packaging, this one is 12 inches. So we have two different sets. I'll just pull it out real quick. You can see this one's not ready to be used. We're going to be drawing with this one probably because it's a little smaller. It'll fit in the camera, but we'll be sewing with the big one. So it's a two-piece set. And basically, it's clamshells that can rotate around in a circle. So let me put my little card behind here so you can get a little bit better view. So these ones fit in a 12-inch space. So the 18 inches is going to fit up to 18 inches. Usually, if you're doing quilt as you go, you would make an 18-inch piece, but you would end up cutting it down a little bit to sew it together. So it's got the familiar pinhole right here, so we'll be rotating around the pin. You'll see that. It looks really, really smart. I mean, just such a great design. The one thing I want you to pay attention as we start drawing and sewing is notice that there are some different lines here. So different lines can change the design, and I want you to try to observe how we're using it, and I'll also talk you through it. But what's important is we're marking crosshair lines. So if I'm sewing down, I'm not going to bring the foot all the way down. I'm going to stop on whatever the appropriate crosshair line is as I sew. So these channels in here could be a little deep on the 18-inch. Let me pull that out so you can see that. See here, they're much deeper than 1 foot space. They actually come down quite far. So what you would do is you would stop when your needle is matching. So we'll show you that and we'll talk a little bit. But this will give you just a little forewarning so you can start looking as we go. All right, well, the first thing that I do want to talk about is marking, because these templates are super powerful, but you really need some good marks for them. So we thought we would maybe show that on the paper a little bit because I want to talk about options. So Honey is here and all my stuff just fell down and he's helping me already. So I have a little pony wall behind me and he's just keeping things in order. Okay, this is Leonie's amazing template guide, inspiration guide that comes with it. Can you see how pretty those designs are? They are just gorgeous. So we're going to do, not all of these, of course, but we'll do some representative designs that show you how to move the template to get different things, to get different designs. But there's so many options. And I'm going to tell you, I was talking with Donna McCauley, and she has done a different one. And so she's going to go ahead and show you something else next week. So you'll get a lot of opportunity to see some of the different things that this can do. It's really amazing. All right, so I have a little piece of paper, and I've already put my marks on here. Now, I have marked 24 lines. 24 lines. Now, if you know about our crosshair square, this is the 8 point, right? And if I split it in half, if I drew 8 and then I split it in half, I'll get 16. And then if I split each of those 16 in half, I'll get 32 lines. You can do that. However, most of the ones in the book split the design into 24 lines. So in order to do that, I found it much easier to use this 6-pointed crosshair and to rotate it 4 times. So I think this one is going to be a lot easier. And all I did, is I just lined it up on the center, and you're going to mark all the lines, and you're going to use the little split lines up here at the top right there. So every time I just moved it 1 until I had all 24. You essentially are going to do 4 rotations of 6. So it's pretty easy with the 6-point crosshair. You can use the 8 and you would end up making 32 lines. But what happens is if I have 32 lines here, the spaces are much narrower because there's a lot more lines on there. So it is going to change your design. And one of the designs that we're going to do today will do with the 24 lines. And I've already done it with the 32 lines. And that will give you a chance to compare. And there's also a little bit of fudging that goes into the 32 lines. I had to manipulate that just a little bit. So we'll talk about that when we get to that design. Okay, so just for clarity, this was the 6-point crosshair. I highly recommend it for this technique. All right, so let's move that off. And what you're going to do with your pinpoint, I found that I really, really recommend drawing these designs out so much. I can't emphasize that enough. So especially when you're starting out and you're not as familiar with the template, it's easier if you play with it a little bit to kind of figure out how it's talking to you. So let me show you some notes on here. This is T2 and T1. So the very first design that we're going to show you, it involves using both of these, but on the same side. So right now you can see this is the right side up. But there are designs where you would want to put your grips on both sides. But for this first one, we're just going to use these 2, and we'll use them with the right side up just like this. So I'm just going to draw maybe 4 iterations so you can see the movement of how this works. And I'll start on this corner line really quickly. So you would line it up. And you could line it up on different lines. The thing for you to see with the different lines, let me turn it this way. Depending on what crosshair you use, different lines will give you this 1/4 inch spacing right there. So on this one, if I use this bottom line on here, that's going to be the one that I need in order to touch this line. So here, I can sew this way and to the line, as we said right there. Notice how I'm not all the way tucked in, I'm just at the line. And you would come in, and here, this is your circle. So you can always sew any of that at any time. But if I just want to move up a little bit, then I can take this off of the pin, and I could line up the next one. And you can always be a little bit out on the circle to give you some space. This one, you'd align the same way. If you want to connect, you can line up, deeper here or not as deep. It's up to you. So we'll use that same bottom line right there. And this T2 is going to let you put those arcs right in the middle of the previous one, like that. So here I would go until I touch right there, sort of to close the design. So that's why there are 2 of these, because the clamshell is going to easily allow you to get that offset. So we'll go ahead and we're just going to start putting that onto some fabric right away. It's much easier to actually sew it than it is to draw it. All right. So let me show you a little preparation that I've done before we start sewing. So I am going to do all of mine as Templee samples. So I'm just going to kind of smooth everything out, and this top layer has the fusible on the back, and I've used Wonder Under for this one. So it's lightweight, it's flexible, it's not really thick and stiff, and I can still reposition. The other thing to look for is when I used the Steam-A-Seam one, that one was very sticky and it actually stuck to this layer, whereas this one is not. So that could be an issue if you're trying to cut and you end up pulling up too much and cutting into this layer. So you do want any kind of a fusible backing that's not going to pre-adhere to this. It didn't meld to it, but it was sticky to the touch. So then when I tried to cut it, it was often picking up both of these layers like that, and I don't want that. Okay, so here's our pinhole, and I like to start on the corner or in the middle. One of the reasons for that is it kind of helps to give your design symmetry. So we're going to start there. So I don't have a double layer of batting. I just have a single layer of batting for this one. Because you're already going through so many layers, and because the fusible can sometimes affect the thread, I think it's probably better to not have 2 layers of batting for this technique, just in general. All right, so we got our pin, we're all ready to go. So let's see, where's my big template? What did I do with it?
Crosshair or
this one? Oh, it's just hiding. Ooh, so look, you can see they're really big. They're so long. They do hang off a little bit off of my table. So if you're doing something that's a full-size quilt, because of all of the movement with this one, you may want to think about doing it quilt as you go or using the smaller templates, because if you use the really big ones, it is a little bit more work. You're going to have to manipulate and move around carefully a little bit more. So let's get you in a little better view. And I'm going to start with T1, and I'll just put it on there. And remember, we said we're going to start with reading the words. And that just means that my clamshell will go in a certain direction. I could do it this way also, it wouldn't matter, but that's just how it is. So I'll just start anywhere on the circle, and I just want to bring up that thread. That'll give me a little bit of the circle to follow as I build my design, so that I can stitch around the design at any point. And typically I would use red thread on this. I'm using this black really because I want you to be able to see. So, okay, so we're on here. We're gonna line up, as we said, on this, the line that is closest to this straight edge side. Okay, so there are different lines, and I want to not just look right here, but also look out towards the end and make sure you're on the correct line, because I've done quite a few of these already, and I've been on the wrong line many times. So I've had to like go back and redo it or rip parts of it out. But there's 2 things you can look for as we do this one. We're looking for this line that's on the straight edge side to be on the crosshair diagonal. I'm on the diagonal of the square. And I'm also looking for this right here. This is that 1/4 inch away. So what that means is when I do the next line, that'll be my stop point for coming in, because this clam will be right at this line. Okay, so let's go ahead and start just right up here at the top. We'll go ahead and we'll sew around the circle. And I'll just kind of shift my finger a little bit as we go. So where am I trying to get to? What I want to do is be on this line, and that's where I'm going to start these clams. So I'll dip in until my needle is on this crosshair line right there where I'm lined up. Okay, so now making sure that the ruler is touching, I'll start doing the clamshell. So the first one's really small, so just tuck in real tight to him. Try not to go too fast on that one, because I think he can get away from you. And then here we go. As you get out, the big ones are a little bit easier. Make sure you keep that foot nice and tight to it. That'll really give you that clean design. Now, because I'm making these lines and I'm adjusting my crosshair square, mine should be pretty even, but if for some reason, you needed to adjust, I have found that this is very, very easy to adjust as well. So here, as we've gotten out towards this end, there's more room for the foot to sink down into here, well below the half of the foot circle. So remember what I said here, you're going to want to stop when you're right in line here with this line. Don't just keep on going. And then we'll sew out. So I'm just going to scoot this. I'll actually take it off, and I want to flip it so you can see what we've done so far. Isn't that cool? All right, can you see it? I know it's kind of big, right? We'll get you out a little bit so you can see better. Okay, so at this point, the reason I sewed some of this circle is this smaller one doesn't really have a circle in the center. I mean, you could make another smaller circle, but in order to travel here, we want to go ahead and sew part of this bigger circle, and that'll be our travel line as we go. So now we'll put this one on. Remember, at this point, both of these are right side up. So this is my margin out here for travel. I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to line up on the next reference line, so right here. So I'm just going to use this area out here for travel. If I didn't have extra space like this and you had a seam, you could just travel in your seam if you wanted to. Okay, you could use your straight edge and everything else. All right, so we've got to move up enough so that we can get lined up. So we're looking for this bottom line there to get into line right there. One more stitch. So let me show you the alignment. I'm lined up on the bottom line, the one closest to the straight edge. And notice when I dip in there, I'll be able to get that offset on each of these clamshells. So that's what you're looking for. So first, I'm going to make sure my foot is touching, and then I'll start sewing in. And I'm watching to make sure that I just hit my clamshell. Just like we do with the regular clamshells, you don't want to dip down into the clamshell below. That creates a lot of visual awareness. Like if we dip into it, visually your eye is going to go right to that spot, and we don't want that. We'd rather have you be one stitch short of the line than one stitch over. So notice that I try to get my fingers kind of into that clamshell, make sure that I'm touching, and you can see right there that I'm a 1/4 inch away from the next crosshair line. So right there, I'll just get right to that line and just keep adjusting your fingers as you go. You'll get faster as you go, but I think initially just getting yourself the feel of how the template is going to help you. So we'll sew this last one. And now right here, this is kind of squared off, but what I want you to do is just go ahead and ride along it as slow and carefully as you can and get your needle onto the circle. That's going to help you move to your next one. One of the things that I found in my own play with this is I like to try to have this not around the back when I have to change the template. If the pin or even this is around the foot, I can't really lift this up to get the other one on. So it's going to be a little bit easier if you have this oriented around this front space in order to flip the templates. So yeah, there's a lot of switching on this, but awesome, right? So let me show you. I'll flip it one more time so we can get lined up. So again, the same reference line. For this design, we're not really changing anything. So by the time you've done this and you've gone all the way around, you'll be a pro. We're lining it up on this bottom line that is closest to the straight edge. And now we're just going to keep following it and putting in the offset. So I'll get lined up and off we go. So again, right there at the little baby one, tucking it in really good, making sure that you go slowly there because it's such a tiny space that a little bit of mismovement there is more visible, I think, than out on the outside where the curve is gradual. Okay, and then just making sure I've got pressure on the back of the foot there to keep that ruler in place. And if you can see, my pin is, oh, darn it, guys, do I need to adjust a little bit? Here, let's see if we can get you better. There we go. All right, so I'll just tilt this a little bit. See that the pin is right here? So of course it's away from the foot. So I can go ahead and I can shift it, but let me show you something. If I put the other template on, sometimes it matters which side that you're on, depends on what the design tells you. Here, I can just put this one on and I can move forward, but that isn't always the case. So make sure that you're determined if you need to have the template. Sometimes it might have to be facing this way on this side. So you'd have to make sure you know which side of the foot that you're putting it on. For this one, fortunately, it's easy. All right, so let's show you where we're at. I hate to keep flipping it around, but it's the same relationship. We're going to move up. This is our reference line. So we'll just scoot out in this margin. And then we'll get our line aligned. Once we're lined up, then I can position the foot. So as you get closer, if you were in your seam, you would just move up a few stitches at a time so you could make sure that you didn't overshoot your spot. So touching the line there, shifting my finger to get pressure right here. So right down to the crosshair line, and then I'll move my hand up. And remember what we said, this is the one that's a little bit squared off. So just ride the edge of the foot along it, just very slowly and gently until you get right to the circle. All right, so there you can see it's starting to show out right there. I think it looks awesome. So you can see right there, I can't get it out. So we'll scoot over. There we go. So you're going to see you're going to have to make some adjustments when you're flipping those templates so that you're not pinned in here either by the needle bar or at the back of the foot. And that's just some practical information. So you can see, especially if you have those longer pins. All right, so let's just do one or two more. We'll try to kind of get halfway because we want to show you some other things about this design that you can do. So right now, notice how the gap here is way bigger. It's not a 1/4 inch. Can you see what I did? Let me just show you. So when you're doing this, this should be a visual note that, hey, things are not right. So don't just start sewing. This is what I meant by you've got to make sure you're on the correct line. And right now, say that I have this on the line and this was not a 1/4 inch. I could literally take my spacing gauge and I could check, because if one of them starts getting off and I keep going, it'll make it harder to correct the more that I do it. So you're looking for this right here to be that 1/4 inch. Well, then if it isn't, you could just microscopically move it up to make sure that it is. And so I found that this is actually very easy to correct if you need to as you go, if you feel like there's a little bit of adjustment, because you have some play in how deep you can go on this clamshell right here. It lets you make those corrections really easily, because we all know fabric has a mind of its own. Okay, so we'll get into that last one and I'll move my hand down. So this is 2 templates and they're just alternating and they're going to make this absolutely beautiful stacked clamshell design. So let's go ahead, we'll just do the last one. That'll get us 1/4 of the way through the design. And then we'll move on to something else. So I think it's good to kind of just repeat it a little bit so you can know, what the alignment is, and you can see how I'm actually moving and sewing it. So I'm looking to get that line right here closest to my straight edge on the crosshair mark. So I'm going to have to keep moving up a little bit. Getting right into my previous one. And if my space right here is too big, if it's bigger, that looks like it might be just slightly bigger than the 1/4 inch. This would be where I maybe would go like this, and I could push this up just slightly right there to correct that so that I am hitting that line. That's why there's a little bit of play in there, and I do really like that. I feel like it offers that flexibility so that you can make your designs more precise. Okay, and then we should be good because we just sewed that one and it's right on the line. So we'll just keep going. One of the things I like to do with these designs is after I finish it, you can also go ahead and sew over the circle one more time. So we're on that T2 with the little squared off. So I'm just going to slowly follow the edge of the template and just come right around that curve. And I think the reason that it's like this and it's kind of squared off is that there's just such a tiny movement right there that it doesn't need a fancy shape. You can see it's just a tiny bit of rounding right there. But as you just go around there, that lets you get right into that circle. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll tack this off real quick. So remember, I like to go ahead and pull my thread up the bobbin thread. I always want that on the top so that I can control what's happening and I'm not stitching through those threads on the bottom. Alrighty, let's cut that. So what I'll do later is, I'm going to finish this. I'll come back in and I can just start either out in the margin or in the circle, and I'll just continue the pattern all the way around until it's completed. So this will be one of my sample pieces, and it's going to have this beautiful black check. So each one of my pieces have a different black and white fabric on the inside, and I just think that those will show out really great against that black. I think it's going to look amazing. All right, so let's keep our pin handy because we're going to move on to another design. All right, so let me show you this one. So I think we'll do this one next. So the way that this one works is we're going to be flipping the same template. Okay, so we're just going to use one, and you can use either one, your choice. I think I will use T1 because I like the big circle. I find that one easy to connect at the center. And we're going to do it with the 24 lines. And then I have it sewn with the 8 point crosshair, and we'll compare for you so you can see what the difference is. That's okay, we don't need that one anymore. So I can feel this one's got a little bow, so I'm just going to smooth him out a little bit, make sure that he's laying flat. There we go. Oh, he's got a really big bump in there. I'm not sure why. There we go. Okie doke. So let's go ahead, we'll stick our pin in there. Now the key with this one is when we're lining this one up, we want to make sure that they're going to match up, and they do match up really nicely with the 6-point crosshair. When I use the 8-point crosshair, they match up, but you have to fudge a little bit more. The alignment is a little trickier with that one. So we'll show you both of those. All right, and we said we'll use T1, and as I said, you know, we can use either side. So we were kind of going with it on the right side. This time we're going to use it on the back. And it doesn't really make it any different. It just makes the rotational orientation go the opposite way. And I just want to show you that it's got a lot of flexibility for you. So again, we'll line it up. We'll do, so here we're going to make our loop come around this center line. So I'm going to use the lines on either side here, and I'll use that same line that is closest to the straight edge. So this line will be the center of a wedge. These two pieces are going to be working together. So when I do this side, I'll line up here, and then on this side, I'll line up here. And what you can do is, since we'll be skipping every other one, you could put little marks. I'll just show you. Like you could say, this is an alignment line, this is an alignment line, right? And then this will be lined up for this one, and then this will be an alignment line. So you could number them and use something like odd or even or something like that, whatever is the most practical solution for you. But this is why it's really important that you test it on paper so you have the visual information that you need. So again, we'll start in the circle. And that just kind of helps us kind of define that space. And it also has an added benefit as it kind of bastes the center part and gets that set into position, which kind of pushes any fullness to the outside, which I like as well. So let's go ahead. We'll sew around the circle, and we'll just sew right into the crosshair line that we need. And we'll stop there. So we're on this crosshair line, and we're just going to sew out. Here, we do really want our design to be kissing in the middle, right? Let me see. I got to make sure we're doing it right. Did I lie to you? Okay, yeah, I did. Let's go this way. We're going to go around the circle just a little bit more. So we said that we want it to be this loop this way. I'll show you the opposite way too. But we'll make this line up so that we create little wedges of circles in here. All right, so we're trying to hit this line. Right on the crosshair is where we're stopping. Shifting my hands down so I have the proper support for the template as I go. And I just marked this 13-inch out here as sort of my limit, my space limit. So I'm always going to try to sew beyond that, just so that I can make sure when I trim it, everything is going to fit. So what we're doing now is we sewed this one side. What we have to do is take this off. And this would be an example of where we need it to be on the other side of the foot, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to sew this same thing, but we're going to sew it on the other side. So let's just scoot around. And we'll get lined up on that same center line, just like I did correct that. We're going to make this the center of the wedge, and these will both mark off of that. And we'll still be skipping when we do the next one, so you could still use those same markings, but they're just going to be reversed. So here we'll line up on the center line, and I'm going to get my foot into position. And this should allow me to make sure I'm touching right there, so I'm going to look to make sure that I am touching here. So I'll sew right in as I go. I'm kind of looking to make sure I can get right to that spot. Then I'll adjust my hand position to get to the next one. Because these are long, I think it is very useful to go ahead and adjust your hand position. That's going to help you have the best control as you move everything. So we'll touch, and then we'll get right into that last one. Now I can just move this way if I want to, or I can go back the other way. It doesn't matter. It's just a choice. But if this is the wedge, this shape has to be on this side, right? So I could sew around a little further until I could line that up. This center line is now the new alignment point for both sides of this, right? So I'm lining it up closest to the straight line, this reference line on this side. And now these are going to come out to this crosshair line, and I'll have to go back in and put the other side in. Or I can flip it and I can do that side first. It's totally up to you, but this is what I meant, where you kind of have to manipulate a little bit so you can get on the correct side. So this is the line we're aligning on. So if I wanted to do that first, I would have to get to that alignment space and then line it up. And here, to make sure that all of these touch perfectly, this would be a place where I would really want to use the spacing gauge right here. It should line up perfectly, but what if it doesn't, right? I want it to just kiss those shapes right there. So I'm on that crosshair line. I'll check this one, maybe make a slight adjustment. And then right here, before I do the last one, I'm going to adjust and make sure that one's good as well. So the reason it's important for them to touch on this one is if I want to cut this section out, let me show you what happened when I tried that and I didn't have them touching. I'll show you on this one. Here's a sample that I was making, and you can see I cut these wedges out, but notice how they didn't touch right here. So now this is open visually, and look at how these look so much better. I really like this, and this to me is kind of distracting because they're not touching. I wish that I had, even just left some of the green, even if the stitching didn't close the design. But if you're doing Templee, it becomes really important maybe that is closed like this so you can get your unique shape in there. So that's just something that you want to think about. If you're just sewing, it may not matter, but if you're cutting, it definitely is going to matter. So that would be a sample. And you can see this is a totally different shape than what we're doing, but what we did here is we have a bigger gap between them, but this is kind of the same thing. These are the same shapes right here, and then this has got a shape in the middle of that space. All right, let's move on. Okay, so we'll just do one more to kind of show you how that's going to be. And notice that this is the center line right here. So if I know that this is not going to be symmetrical for this design, I might want to just do these parts first and then do something else, because for 24, this one doesn't quite fit exactly with this style, so you'll end up with something different right here. So what I'll probably do is do something different on each of these sides. So this is all about you sort of making your own design, right? So this is our center line, so we'll use that as the reference. We're trying to get that third line right there. Okay, and we're all lined up. And we should be kissing. That kind of is a big space right there, so I'm going to check that with my spacing gauge. So for some reason, that seems much bigger. So I'm actually going to just bump it up just a little bit so that I can try to absorb that space right there. That's one of the things that I was talking about, how it's nice that you could sort of correct and just make these touch now. And even though I'm not quite on the crosshair line, I could make that adjustment and take up that extra space there. So I think we're good for the rest of those. I think we look like we're in the right spot. All right, last one. So there you go. So I have the option when I do this, if I want I can put additional designs in the space here, and I can change how this looks just by putting some additional definition in there, or I can just cut these and you'd have the black. I think that sometimes if you have a little extra scrap, you may want to decide which one is going to give you the bright color balance. And I'll show you an example of that too. So this one has a tremendous amount of cutaway. And I thought that I wanted that because I wanted to expose the color underneath, but it left very little definition of the whole design. You know, it kind of just looks blobby to me. It doesn't have enough. Whereas if the blue, the teal were here and this was the cutaway, I think that you would get more balance of color over the whole design. Whereas when I show you this one, I think that that one has a much better design balance overall. Like the amount of color has a better balance, right? So I think it's important sometimes to test something before you cut it away, and especially if that's like the only fabric you have of that particular piece, then this will allow you to test that out on some smaller piece. Just make a couple of these lines from the center and then just cut one or two so you can see, like, am I getting more of the color underneath or more of the color on the top? Which one do I like better? So that way you can just play with that before you're sort of committed to your final piece. All right, so let's go ahead. We'll tack this off. And then I'm going to show you one more, which I think is so pretty. So hopefully you can already see that there's tremendous amount of versatility in the design. So before we move on from this one, remember that I said we were going to compare the 32 lines and the 24 lines. So this one was made with the 6-point crosshair, and there's 24 lines. So essentially there should be, 12 of these as we go around. And that's a nice even number, and you can see they fit in the wedge pretty much perfectly. And we'll make sure as we go around that everybody touches so that when we come back here, this won't be a big gap. It's a little short of the chalk, but as I said, we can correct that as we go. So we'll keep checking as we go around so we don't have a big correction at the end. But this one is with the 18-inch and the 24 lines. And let me grab that other sample. So I didn't really realize when I first started playing with it what a big difference that it would make if you had a different number of lines. But this one is with 32 lines, and you can see that the line, it cuts so much off, right? So let me just show you, see if we can get you in there. Can you see the reference? So here's the cutaway. So we've already started a little bit of cutaway. But notice how that this kind of creates like a more of a squat, fat shape. Instead of a circular shape, you're going to get a long, skinnier shape. And that's just because there is a different number of lines, and there's a lot more of these units. So we said there would be 12. On this, there's probably 16, because we said 32, so there's half as many. So 16 of these wedge circles right here that are throughout this design. And it even changes the center of the design right here to be kind of like a little pointy flower. There's kind of that pointy shape. Whereas if you look at this one, see how round it is? Here you're going to get pearls around the center that look like that. That'll be really regular. And that could be just, you could just leave that, and we could add definition down here. Like if you just wanted the pearls to be by themselves, we can always cut our design to start out here. So we could put the offsets in here and create something in the middle. We can start wherever we want. We don't have to make the design always come back to the center. But I thought it was really powerful and really impactful for you to see the big difference that you would have between these two designs if you used a different crosshair, because they are going to be extremely different. And I want to show you also then what does that mean for the alignment as well. So if I line this up, this is my pinhole right there, so I'll just line it up on there. I couldn't line this up here because see how it would cross over? It would cross over this crosshair line. So what I had to do is I used this line in the middle for this one, and that's the one that got me 1/4 inch away from that crosshair line that allowed me to have these be kissing. I guess that's the wrong one. Let's flip it to the other one. That way you'll be able to see a little better. Right? So I used this middle line, the one that is in between, because there are 3 on this part of it. And when I sewed in, notice that I'm not even at this halfway mark of this dip. So I had to fudge a little bit here as I connected, because if I can't go down further, there's too much space right here for me to immediately start the next clamshell. So if you're using the 8-point crosshair, you can do it, but you have to grade this a little bit so you're aiming to be in the middle of this space as you come off the mountain. And then you'll kind of grade back on. And it wasn't hard to do. I was able to do it, but you can see that maybe that's why there's some like little irregularities there. But you know, when it's all cut and quilted, nobody's going to notice that. But I want you to be aware of that so that you see there's a big difference between one crosshair and the other, and it's really going to change your design depending on how you use it. Okay, that's why I recommend the 6-point for this design. I think it's easier, but I think this is pretty. I love how it turned out. So, you know, maximum flexibility, that's always our goal. All right, so let me show you the next one. Thank you. All right, and this one looks like he's a little wonky, so I'm going to have to straighten him out a little bit before I put him up there. So this one is like crazy marked, okay? So just bear with me for a second. Leonie West does have several designs in there that are maybe a little bit more complicated. Can you see all those lines? Can you see that I've got a blue line and a white line? This is 48 lines. So I made the initial 24 lines with the 6-point crosshair. How do I know that my blue line is in the middle? So I'm going to show you that in case you want to figure that out for yourself. So let me grab my ruler. You can take any ruler like this that has this center line right there. And I'm going to put it right on this white line. Let's see if we can get it. We've got the 2 white lines right there, 2 of them. And what I'm trying to do is go through the center dot right there. So this diagonal should go through the center dot. And then what I want from that center dot is both of these should have the same amount of space. So I might have to shift it this way or shift it that way to make sure that I've got these evenly lined up. So it looks to me like right there and right there, I've got the same amount of space. Then what I did is I marked that like this to create a point right there. All right, and then I need one more thing. So once I have this reference line on a single one of them, can you guys see that? Hey, Kate Cantrell, is the visibility good? Can you see that I marked that in the center there of these 2 white lines? So once you've got that as a reference, then you can put this on again, and you'll line up your center hole just like you did before, and you're going to line up one of these lines on that. So like right here, this is your long line. You can line up this little angle right there so that he's lined up right in the center of all of these little angles. And then that's where you can start making these lines that are in the middle of the white. Okay, so I know that sounds really complicated, but basically you're just measuring with your ruler the distance in between these 2 white lines, and you're making a reference mark. Once you have the reference mark, you can use this aligned on the reference mark, and then you can just start marking another set of lines. So 48 lines boggles my mind, right? That's a lot of lines, but it's pretty awesome. Let me show you what we can do with it. All right, so once again, we always have to have our pin right in the center. And I always try to put it right between my fingers like this when I do it. I'm really careful, but I have stabbed myself. But I think that that way I can make sure that I get that nice mark on the back, and then I can get everybody lined up easier. All right, well, I haven't asked, are there any questions, babe? Do we have any questions so far?
Just what I guess the most recent one was, what were the markings? I know it's a Fons and Porter for the white. What are you using for the purple, the dark ones? Is that your air erase?
It's the Styla pen. So I tried to use my purple air erase on this one, but because it's so dry right now where we are, it wouldn't even hardly mark. It kind of came off right away, and I marked this earlier, so I needed it to stay on for the next few hours. So I went ahead and I marked this with my blue Styla pen. And this is what it looks like. And this is by Soline. They do have air erase and they have blue. And what I like about it is two things. This is a roller ball, so it marks so easily on the fabric. And in addition to that, because this is a little bit fatter, I loved how this fits right inside the slit for the crosshair square. It marks really smoothly right in the middle, so I do really love that. So that's what I use to mark the two different lines. So in Leonie's reference guide, she's asking you to mark these with the two different colors. And I think the purpose of that, of course, is visibility, so you know which line you're using to make different marks on. Okay, so let's go ahead and get our tools out. So I'm going to show you just one of the designs that I really love, that I think is so fun. And for us, this would be essentially out to the corner, right, the white line. And what we want is we want to oppose our circles. So let me show you what I mean by that. Let's use our T1 first. I like the T1 first always because I want some of that reference circle in there. So let's make some of the circles so we have that travel line and we have that shift. So, and I can even make the whole circle. I mean, you can always do the circle all the way around if you wanted, which I usually don't. I just do it as I travel. But I'll show you what I mean. So let me show you the one that we're going to do. Let's see if I can I'm going to put a little piece of it up there for you. So what we want here is we want to create the same wedge where these are kissing. So on the center line, we're going to do that, but then we're going to be flipping the other ones around. And this one is definitely part of the design that speaks to me. So we said that in the center, they're going to be kissing. So we're going to use maybe, let's see, we'll use that one because we want these ones to have that gap there in the center. Oh, darn it. Had a little too much fun there. You probably saw that, huh? So we'll just kind of come out here because this is how we can travel. So just like we did the last one, we do want these to kiss in the middle. So we'll get that lined up. Let me flip this around so I can show you the alignment. So let's get our pin on. So right now, my pin is a little bit off the edge of my table here in front. So I'm going to try to get myself over a little bit. And I'm going to tilt it just a little bit so that I can have the pin supported. So I don't want the pin sort of falling off the edge there. So we're using that same line that's closest to the straight edge, and here's that 1/4 inch. This is, again, where you could maybe even use your spacing gauge if you wanted to, just to make sure that we can touch and close the design. Right there. Perfect. Maybe a little too tight there, right? It'll all work out. All right, and we're just going to keep on going, and if you have trouble coming out of the dip right there, notice how I'm going to use these fingers back here, and I can use them to push out of the ditch as well. So that's another way that we can try and help get that right movement. So let's go ahead and we'll double check that spacing right there as well. Now, I'm going to tell you something that I have found about this cute little design right here. So this is the same one that we did before. I don't want to cut anything that small. It's too hard. So what I'm going to do is intentionally maybe leave these two uncut and then cut these if I ever do this. So I've shown you the corner here, and now I want to show you something that we can do to change the design completely, to just really make it look so different. So now this was our T1, and we did use them in both directions, right side up and wrong side up. And now we'll take the other one and we'll put him on. And I want to show you how I'm going to line him up with these 48 lines. I've got this line in the middle now, so I'll come just a little bit around on the circle so that I can get him lined up on this blue line right there, okay? And what that's going to allow me to do is do this offset right here. So I'm going to go ahead and get my ruler touching at the top, so I'll stitch until I'm touchy. And I'm going to the blue crosshair line right there. I'm not going to stitch down below the blue line. So I'm at the blue line, move my hand down. One of the things I love about this design is it really, to me, creates a ton of movement. And this is the one that I think I like the best so far. Stylistically, I love this with the opposed clamshells. And so what I can do at this point is I can make, just like how these kiss, I can make another one kiss right here with this shape. And then this other one, the T1, would be the offset. But what I'll do just to show you how this kind of section does it, we'll just come around the corner and we'll put the offset in here. And this would be one where I think it's really useful to draw it out and make sure that everybody fits and that you kind of get everyone the correct direction. Because there's so many lines, what I found is that I did struggle a little bit to make sure that I had them aligned properly. So I took my chalk marker and I kind of drew them in vaguely so I would knew which orientation went with which line. All right, so let's put it on. So we want the clamshell to go right in the middle there. So we should be able to line it up on the blue line. So that bottom line that is closest to the straight edge is now lined up on that blue line, not on the white one. And as we sew in, We'll go right to the blue line and stop. So there's the blue crosshair line. Adjust my hand position. Now let's stop right here. Notice that we're on this blue line. So what we'll do on this next one is we'll be flipping this one so that this one has a kiss right in the middle. And then right there, just slowly getting myself right up to the circle. And unfortunately, I don't have the circle on that side, but you can see right there, isn't that awesome? I love this shape. I think it looks so cool. So you could cut this because this is continuous, or you can cut these in the middle. It's totally your choice. And I think I have a sample of that real quick. Let me pull that out. Are we missing one? This one right here. Can you hold that? All right, let me tie that off and then we'll pull this out for you. All right, let me cut this real fast. So here you can see this might be good to have the full circle. Depends on which way you're going, because that's kind of a little bit messy right there. I would prefer it was a little cleaner. So I may come back in and touch this area up and then just take out those few stitches, just because we're going to be having this as a really important circle design right there. So here's the sample of what it looks like when it's all cut away. We'll turn it this way so you can see better. Doesn't that look so awesome? I love it. This is my favorite design so far. So here, obviously, I'm cutting the center, and you can see what I mean by, as I tried to get into these little spots, I decided that I was going to put some limit on what I'm willing to cut because they're so tiny. So let's see, I saw a question. I'm going to answer Joan Burden's question. So Joan, if you remember when we set up all of this, this is got a fusible backing on there, right? And so when I cut it, I'm not going to fuse it to everything right now. It's just fused to this top layer. And then after I do all of the cutaway, after I finish cutting all of these different spaces, so I've got, a couple more right here, and then I'm going to go ahead and fuse all of the top down. And what that will do is that'll make sure that this does not ravel. If I have any areas that are a little bit of a trouble spot, like I'll show you, let's see if I can find one for you. I'm sure I have one on one of these. On one of these little guys, I cut, oh yeah, he's right there. Here, I'll show you up close. I cut him really badly right there. I don't know if you can see it, but I actually cut into this base fabric right there. I fray checked him. And I don't know, I might just put like a little star, a decorative stitch right there just to, tidy that up. But then I would kind of want to do it in a ring. So I haven't decided exactly what I'll do. Yes, it is a raw edge, but you have got some type of fusible stabilizer on there. You can also use fray block and actually just go around the edges. And this is a raw edge applique method to do it like this. So you're definitely going to have those raw edges. And, when I cut it, I had like a cut bin and I tried to pull all the stuff off because you don't want little fray of fusible threads left on the top, like something like that little green piece that maybe has some fusible on it, because then when you press it, it can be fused in different places where you may not want it. I also did use an applique pressing sheet when I did it, and that helped to keep my iron nice and clean. It did help protect all my work surfaces, and then I just vacuumed all the other little bitty stuff up afterwards. So, all right, so let me show you. So this is one of the designs that we did today. And this one, the reason I'm sharing it is this is how it can be in a triangle, right? And so my goal here was I was trying to make corner triangles, because this is also the corners for the Hoffman panel, but the color kind of just changed so much that it didn't really look like how I wanted. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put these together like this at an angle and have a center color so that these will have these 4 pieces. Oh, one more. There we go. Like that. And that way the color will look a little bit more unified, but I will do it quilt as you go, so there'll be a purple piece in between that will separate these designs and give them each their own breathing room. So they'll all have this little decorative circle on the outside, and then they'll have this sort of modern X that goes through the middle. And then this is one more design that I want to show you, and it's got a lot of threads. It needs to sort of be trimmed, but I just think it is so gorgeous. I just had to show you. You know, everybody loves that kind of cathedral circle where it cuts in repeated circles. And this is just what we showed you. So these are the ones kissing right here. You've got 2 kissing. And then the next set is the overlapping circle that cuts in. This is the overlapping one, and then these are kissing right there. And that's what gives you this. And depending on how you cut it, like if you see this right here, if you cut this away and you had like yellow underneath or something, that could be like a little butterfly right there. So one of the things that Leonie has in her guidebook is many different ways that you can cut the design and reveal different parts of it, and that completely changes that. So I have a sample of that I'm going to share really quick. So this is, you know, you can absolutely do it in a triangle. I can even make the center here and go around the triangle, or go in a diamond or in a hexagon. Whatever shape I have on my quilt, I can use that, and I can choose the center to be wherever I wanted. And so these are not limited to being in a square. That's the demo here. And let's go back to one of our initial ones. Can I have that one right there, babe? Yeah. So this one, this is the first one that we did. This one was using 2 templates, and they're both right side up, and they can be the same direction, either right side up or wrong side up. And you're just stacking, you're just alternating. T1, T2, T1, T2, T1, T2. And they would allow you to spin around the center really easily and just make an amazing design. So look at this really quick in your mind, and we're going to cut this, you know, on some level. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I haven't decided. But let me show you my sample again one more time. I'm going to flip it over to the back, and you'll be able to see that it's exactly the same design, right? This is exactly what I showed you, where you're just T1, T2 going around the circle, and you're just offsetting each of the clamshells as you come back in. But based on how I cut this, I have this amazing center motif that has kind of like a little star right there in the center. There's sort of like a little center motif right there. And then it has 2 different directions. It has these alternating waves. So I had, this was all green, and then this was all colored. So I left a few of these center ones in to create this motif here, and I have marked everything. Before I cut it, you can see I've got like little residual chalk marks that I haven't washed anything yet. I have to press this before I do anything with it. So I did cut the circle because I wanted that yellow center, and I cut so that I had the pink, and then I had all teal, and then all pink, and then all teal. Once I did that, then I went back in and I marked the alternate lines, which are these ones that kind of go like a little, not even a circle, but they kind of go in and out, right? And that's what this line is. So this was done after. So these two were already cut. So I just had to essentially cut this one and maybe that center one. And then that makes that double line. And that created a whole different look to this quilt than if I had just left the lines just green and then the colored ones. So I do have a picture of just the two-tone one where I didn't have the extra cutaways. So I will go ahead and post that on my Fabricated Quilts page so you can see that. But what it shows you is that there is an infinite amount of variety that you can do with this system. And it's just so much fun. In addition to that, let me show you a couple of other tools that we have. That we are not going to use these today, but I do want to show you them, and then Donna is going to show you more about how to use those other pieces. Are they right there? I need that bag right there.
Top one in there.
It says Echoes.
No, this is Arc Templates.
It's the underneath.
Tecoma Echoes.
Yeah. All right, let me scoot this over. And I'll pull these other templates out. So Leonie has also created some really unique pieces to go along with it. And this is the Echo right here. So it's got a pin. So you get a 1/4 inch echo or a 1/2 inch echo. So there's two different ones on each piece. And you can use the pin that's already in there. And this is going to allow you to create an echo. So let me just show you some of the pictures that you can do with it. And I'll show you just on here. So if you wanted to say keep this all teal, but you wanted to have a little bit more definition on the circle, you can do a 1/2 inch echo and then cut just that little narrow strip away. So Donna is going to be showing you more about the Echo templates because she's done a really fabulous sample, and she had mentioned that she's going to do that next week. So if you want to see how these echoes are working, that's going to be something that she's going to be demoing in her Tecoma live sample that she's doing. But so much versatility. And again, circles are really difficult, I think, to do really accurately. And she has done it in a way that allows you to make amazing spiral designs, circle designs with just tremendous accuracy and so much fun. So the 18 inch is a really long template. So if you're going to be using it in a narrow throat, you are going to have to be careful on this side because even on my machine, I can barely fit it all the way right there, and I have a really large throat. So that doesn't mean you can't use it. You might just have to manipulate it so that you're working this way or kind of at an angle like that. If you don't want to make blocks that big, then the 12 inch is a nice size to be able to work with maybe something a little smaller, like a 10 inch block or an 8 inch block, because this is going to work for those sizes. So those are just the bits of information that we have. Let me look through real quick and see how we're doing as far as questions. Yeah, the smaller ones are really hard to cut. I just saw somebody commenting on that. I love the opposing clamshells. That's definitely my favorite. And so let me just show you the back of some of these because you can see that they make great quilts even if you don't cut them out. So right here, this is just the alternating clamshell again. And you can see it's just going around in a circle. You're going to get a little more tightness in the design where the clamshells are little. And then you're going to obviously space them out as they get bigger because they'll take up more space. And then, let's see, we have one more sample here. So this one is where we've kind of done this. This is the 8-point crosshair with the long squat ovals. But you can see this is absolutely beautiful. I think it looks gorgeous, and that could be a really great motif that you could use for some, any kind of space. And one of the things that I think would be really cool is if you can easily, I think, make this a edge-to-edge style. So like, as we come out here, this point of contact, we could make another ring of our crosshair marks, and we could just keep another echo of circles going out from there. And then that could make this whole design kind of push out and be bigger if you had something like that. So you can do a lot of different things with that and make that a lot bigger, like an edge-to-edge style, just by making this edge point right here your new point, and then continuing your design and just letting them cross over wherever they will. So, all right, let's show you one or two more back sides. So these ones are a little messier because I haven't tidied up all the threads and stuff, and they're kind of shedding. So these were double batted, and I did find that a little bit more challenging for sure. That's why I'm not recommending that for you guys. I've tested it for you. But you can see this one's got a little bit more of a gap. These don't actually touch. And so this kind of creates this really unique space in here. If you want to make them not touch, you could use a different line on the template, which gives you a little bit more room. So instead of using that one, I could, fudge it a little bit and create a bigger gap right there if I wanted to. So this one does look really fun on the back. I didn't feel like it cut away as nicely on the front. Like I said, I wanted to flip the colors and maybe have the deep colors in the big area. But still, I think it has a lot of potential. And then this creates a lot of fun space to fill. And here's my other idea for this one, right? Christmas is coming up. So I want you to visualize that this right here, this is my snowman right here. And what I'd like to do here is create just a straight edge right here, like a top hat. And then you're still connecting it with the circle, right? So this would be, instead of making this one be curvy, make this straight. And you could even use the crosshair lines to connect it up there if you wanted to. And then you could make these a snowman, and this could be white and this could be black, or you could just applique the black hat on the top over that. And I think that would look so cool. I'm going to test it out. I'll let you know how it goes. All right. And then this one is the one where they have the overlapping so that you get that little cathedral look on there. This design, the next one is called Westalee. Westalee. And it does kind of make me think of waddling, So I love this. This is just one template. You could use either one of them, and you're just spacing it on the crosshair, all going in the same design. And this one would cut away perfectly on alternating colors if you wanted. You could see that that looks really unique. And again, I could do a center design here with the circles on quilts, and I could put maybe a spinifex in here. And then I could just use some of these outer lines as a fill beyond that circle. I don't have to make this part of the circle always come all the way in. And she does show you quite a few different designs like that. And then here is the one that I love the best, with the alternating clamshells where they're kissing and then they are opposed and then kissing. And I just think this one is my personal favorite. So much versatility. I mean, amazing. Frog legs. Okay. So I did post my link on there. So if you want to go and look at these products, what we're giving away today, let me pull that out real quick so I can show you. So we're giving away the Tecoma 18 template set. Right, so we're giving away the book, the 18-inch Tecoma Templates, the two big ones, right, the larger size. And you're going to need staple tape for both sides, just as a reminder. And then they're giving away set 1 of the circles on quilts. And set 1 is the whole number circles. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and then also 3, 5, 7, 9, 11. So you would get 2 of these and 2 of these and the book. And if you don't already have it, as I said before, I highly recommend the 6-point crosshair for this. I really think it's so much easier. I did it with both, and I found that I liked the designs better. I liked the flow better when I had the 24 lines and the 48 lines. So I just wanted to make sure you know what you're going to get. So those are the 5 pieces. Oh, and there's one other thing that we're giving away. So this is the Spinifex number 4 from the sampler set, which is the 3.5 size, but they're going to be giving away the 7.5 size, I believe. And the reason for that is Leonie West used certain ones in the inspiration book, and they're giving you the basic templates that are part of that inspiration guide. So that's what this whole giveaway is in order to get you started. So in order to win the giveaway, you have to like, comment, or share on this post. If you've already liked, commented, or shared on the winning announcement, the giveaway announcement, then you're entered. We only enter you one time, so you don't have to enter a million times. I wish it worked like that, but it doesn't. So, if you've already entered, you're good to go. But please go ahead and like, comment, and share so you can win this awesome bundle. And these templates are available, as I said, in the 18-inch or in the 12-inch. And then, of course, the Echoes would be a separate unit that you would purchase. And I think when we showed you the Echoes, I think there's 5 pieces in that too. Let's count them. 4 pieces, I lied. So there's 4 pieces in the Echo set. So as I said, Donna will be showing you more about how to use that, but I hope that you had a great time, and I hope that you found it really interesting and that you just want to do something more with it. So pretty unique template. I can't wait to see what you do with it. If you do get it, please share your picture with me because I want to see. I'm so nosy. Okay, that's it for today, guys. I mean, I hope your brain is just on fire now. But yeah, so much to do. And I only scratched a tiny bit of the surface. We just showed you the back-to-back kisses that make like the little diamond, and then we showed you the alternating clamshells, and we showed you the circles essentially where you could make them kiss or whatever. But those are just a tiny little fraction of the potential of this set. So I hope that you guys have an absolutely wonderful day and a happy weekend and happy quilting. I will see you next time. I do go through the feed. I'll check for any questions, okay? Happy quilting. Bye-bye.